The far right often says you should be proud of your heritage. They say anyone telling you different is trying to tear you down. It's a line they often repeat because their political theory is based on the idea that the past is what we need to return to, that we have strayed too far from where we have come from. So instead of dealing with the evils that were committed, they try to excuse and whitewash them. A few years ago, tracing my own family history, I found something that made my stomach turn. My great-great-something grandfather owned a slave woman, which is bad enough on its own, but in his will he ordered that she be freed upon his death, but that her 10-year-old son was to be sold off and the profits divided among his heirs. What struck me wasn't only that it was cruel to rip a child from his mother's arms, it was that this horror was just normal. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. More often it looks like a man doing what everyone else does. My ancestors weren't Nazis. They didn't dream of genocide. They just participated comfortably in a system that treated human beings as livestock. And yet when some Americans today say that we should be proud of our heritage, of the greatness of America's past, how can we do that without also acknowledging the parts that were evil? Every person alive descends from both kindness and cruelty. Every civilization story is written in both creation and conquest. We can honor the courage of pioneers and soldiers, the genius of founders and reformers, while also admitting that some of them built their legacies on the backs of others. The United States, like every other nation, was founded by human beings, brilliant, flawed, and often blind to their own brutality. John Locke wrote, "The end of the law is not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom." Yet for centuries, the law in America preserved freedom only for some. Slavery was legal, Jim Crow was legal, the internment of Japanese Americans was legal. Evil often wears the costume of normalcy. To deny this is to replace history with mythology. But here's the complication. Guilt and responsibility are not the same thing. I didn't sell that 10-year-old child. You didn't run that auction. No one alive today owns those crimes. Yet many feel accused when history is told honestly, as if to admit that ancestral wrongs is to inherit personal guilt. Guilt cannot pass through bloodlines, but consequences can. Our institutions, our wealth, even our neighborhoods still bear the imprints of old hierarchies. Pretending otherwise is just denying a reality we can all see. Facing the truth doesn't mean self-loathing, it means refusing denial. And yet the inverse mistake is also real. When people say today that we've inherited colonization, they often forget that we've also inherited decolonization. It's absurd logic, like saying that you resemble your great-grandfather more than your own father. The closer inheritance, the one still unfolding, is the work of undoing oppression, not perpetrating it. Colonization and slavery are often invoked not to illuminate history, but to disguise failure in the present. Politicians who cannot develop their societies hide behind this inherited guilt. Africa is not poor today because of colonization any more than poverty in America's white communities is caused by slavery. Poverty is a policy failure. When leaders can't create opportunity or growth, they reach for history as a shield from responsibility. That's not justice, it's avoidance. So suppose we reframed the question. Instead of asking whether our ancestors were evil, what if we asked what made them think evil was normal? The answer isn't that they were uniquely monstrous, it's that they were human. They lived inside systems that rewarded obedience and punished dissent. And that precisely is why liberalism matters. Liberalism was humanity's great jailbreak from the cage of tribe and tradition. It declared that no one was born to rule and no one is born to serve, that all people are created equal. We aren't liberals because we think people are good. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We're liberals because we know that people can rationalize anything and we must build institutions to limit the damage. When conservatives say be proud of America, they're right, if by pride they mean gratitude for a system that can correct itself. When progressives say be ashamed of America, they're right, if by shame they mean a moral awareness that keeps us from repeating past sins. A liberal patriot feels both of these things. Pride without shame becomes arrogance, shame without pride becomes despair. The American story isn't the triumph of the innocent, it's the progress of the guilty towards greater justice. Frederick Douglass, once a slave himself, wrote, "Liberty is meaningless where the right to utter one's thoughts and opinions has ceased to exist." That right and the courage to use it are what allowed America and other liberal societies to grow beyond their founding hypocrisies. Our task isn't to cleanse the past, but to continue the process, to keep freedom expanding even when it reveals our ancestors' crimes and our own blind spots. Every generation inherits both the fire and the ash. To deny the ash is to forget how easily freedom burns. To refuse the fire is to abandon the hope that humanity can rise above its worst instincts. My ancestors did evil, and so will some of us in ways we cannot yet see. But liberalism gives us the tools, law, reason, open debate, to make evil visible, to name it and to stop it sooner next time. And that is something to be proud of.